What about a human, though? And I'm not talking about reincarnation. I think it's a funny analogy. And the reason why I bring it up is because at 33 years old, I just look at that whole analogy and I reflected on my own life. Because I feel like I have lived multiple lives within this lifetime at 33 years old. And I also believe that there's so many levels to it that makes me feel this way. I also want to pinpoint that financially, it hasn't been easy for me. Like, it has not been easy for me. So that's not a luxury that I'm saying that I had to overcome and to go through these obstacles, trials, and tribulations that brought me to this point and in this mindset. To sum it up nice, short, and sweet, I went against the norm. I went against what society tells you. So basically, I ended up on a one-way plane ticket at the age of 24, leaving South Florida, going to the mountains. And so just that example alone it says so much. I went from somebody that grew up flat land and salty beaches, right? Hot, year-round. Yeah, we might have had a couple, weeks of cold snaps, whatever, but no change of seasons and all these things. All of a sudden, I'm having culture shock. All of a sudden, I'm experiencing leaves change for the first time. I'm experiencing snowfall for the first time. On another level, I've done so much healing, overcome so much trauma. On another level, when I got on that one-way plane ticket, I didn't know in a couple of years COVID was going to happen. I didn't know I was going to end up selling the house that I thought was going to be the foundation to start building. Because that's the goal, right? Before you know it, I'm in a freaking motorhome. 34-foot motorhome driving, me by myself, with my two dogs, my World, my Soul Dog, and my Honey Boy. All of a sudden just going. To where? I don't know. Just going inward and listening to that intuition that even got me to this point. That has made me pivot left, pivot right, jump high, jump low, dip down low, dip down high, and go through all these maneuvers without even really understanding what the objective was or what the end goal result was, because it was times where I couldn't even see past the next step. But my intuition was guiding me. So here I was maneuvering, going through all of these crazy life situation experiences that I was quote unquote manifesting, but I believe in creating with the creator, co-creating with the creator. And that's exactly what I was doing. And before you know it, I'm on a farm. After I had already went down to Florida in this motorhome, spent time with a man that showed me such a real masculine love that I got to experience for the first time that I didn't have my whole life, because he became a grandfather at the age of 16. But after my grandmother passed away, the first year that I left, me and him formed this incredible bond. And so here I was healing father wound issues. So many things happening at such a rapid pace, going against the norm, quote unquote. Before you know it, I'm leaving Florida in the motorhome a couple months later, because I'm guided to. I'm going back up to the mountains, ending up on top of a mountain, working with rich folks. That this is like their secondary luxury home, country club, where they have their own runway and stuff, being offered a job at a farm on the other side of the state. After I had envisioned working on a farm for so long, because I grew up being a ball player. And here I was getting trained to run this farm on my own, because the gentleman that was training me was the brother to the owner, and he was getting older, of course, and his back and so forth. And so here I was getting trained to take the reins. 500 plus acres. It's like this hunting family introducing Bob White, Tennessee Reds back out, and doing food plots for the bird dogs, for the birds, for the wildlife such as deer and whatnot in the backfields, and all these things going on that I had envisioned once, and all of a sudden it has transpired to my reality right in front of me that I could have never imagined. I was literally riding a four-wheeler from the house that was room and boarding that I had to myself, 3-bedroom, 1 bath, lower level, upper level, to myself, riding a four-wheeler a couple miles up the road to go work at the farm. That's my job. Not only that, that was the 3rd season that I went out hunting and got my first buck. And it was so sentimental because my uncle and my aunt had just passed prior to that hunting season. And he was a big time hunter, the biggest hunter that I know in my family when it comes to deer. And it was so sentimental. It was an experience, and you can't tell me that it wasn't, the universe didn't set it up right. Because I had followed a blood trail the first year I had went out, but still didn't, you know what I mean? I had glazed a deer with a bow, a different time. But it all lined it up for this perfect time. And the night before, I was on a different field being guided to go home, wake up, get up at the pitch dark, and get out there in a certain spot. And I was guided to go there. And I literally was already taking the heart out within an hour with a GoPro on my head that I totally forgot because it was so supernatural. I didn't even remember to push record. And the buck came out 1,000 yards out on the way opposite side of the crop fields. And then all of a sudden he's 30 feet in front of me, literally. And I saw him in the crosshairs coming across, and I thought it was going to be a doe. And I mean, so many examples. I grew up as a ball player. I feel like 24 years, I was born and raised in South Florida. I've been gone for 9 years officially. Last month was my anniversary. And I feel like it was 30 years ago. I've let go so much of my pain that I have been through, so much of the abuse, the neglect, the trauma, everything weighing me down. So many levels to it that has to do with your own personal journey. And when I sit back and I look at it at this point on how much I've overcome, what I've accomplished, even though I do not have a materialistic reality to even prove it to you, but I do have a testimony to prove to you because of the consciousness and the hell that I took myself out of. And it feels like the whole time is like, I'm so disconnected from time. I've done so much inner healing, searching, and all of these things, and become like highly intuitive, whatever word you want to put, master alchemist, all of these things, these natural born abilities that I've been given by the creator that they want to, call clairaudience and voyance and all of these things. And it all comes back down to being guided to go down the path that was chosen for me, not what society wanted to dictate. Because when society wants to dictate that you need to go work a job for 30 years, what type of life are you really living? And how many adventures, experiences, journeys are you really going on? I never understood growing up people waiting for their retirement to go live life. And it's kind of funny because it's like that's what I had kind of done. And it's almost ironic and a double-edged sword because I haven't even been able to literally enjoy it to the fullest ability. But I have made myself enjoy it while all hell is breaking loose around me. And while madness and all of this stuff, and I have created peace within it. And how to do it in the poorest of situations, whether it comes to my environment, my housing, my car constantly breaking down, family members not being there for me, being looked at as the black sheep, the scapegoat, all of these things, all of these layers, the daddy issues, the mommy issues, the whatever. That no college could have ever taught me what I've learned in this personal spiritual. I didn't even know I was having a spiritual journey. You know what I mean? I grew up as a millennial, born in the 90s, early 90s, and I just thought I had a hippie side of me. Just like a ghetto side of me, just like a redneck side of me, just like a country side of me, just like a Rastafarian side of me. What the fuck ever. I don't even like the labels, broette. You know, I've never been able to one to sit here and classify myself in a category or a subject. And so I took that journey, I took that leap, getting on that one-way plane ticket because I was guided to, because everything in my environment was literally toxic. So many birds chirping around me, trying to dictate the way I'm supposed to live my life. And yet here I am 9 years later. It's like I was beating myself up a year or two ago because of how my materialistic realm wasn't producing everything that I have overcome. But yet I couldn't even give myself enough credit or time to stop and think and actually realize how much I have overcome, because the physicality is not showing it, because it was such a personal, spiritual, quote unquote, journey of healing that I didn't realize, and how much I had overcome. You know, just literally getting through COVID and all of these other things, just within not even 2 years after getting on that one-way plane ticket at 24 years old, trying to build a foundation for, you know, my life. Just the fact I was even able to survive that. The only reason why is because I did listen to my intuition. I did sell the house I was in because I saw what was for coming. I had those natural instincts that I was already tapped into, that society and the world was trying to take it from me completely, after they had been siphoning it for so long and I didn't even realize. But I had found that my energy had been siphoned, and that's when I had actually realized my energy, because of how able I am to pick up on other people's energy. Then therefore I'm not able to necessarily recognize myself because nobody taught me, because I didn't have a mentor, and blah 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? But it's been such a journey of the opposite of what society has taught, especially my generation as a millennial, and what our parents, boomers, etc. were programmed to be. I have done the opposite. And the life I have lived, it's almost like I can't even believe it myself. It ain't like I'm in a nice new motorhome. I'm in a 30-year-old motorhome that I was able to afford because I sold the house and I was doing what I needed to do to survive, to not go back to the toxic environment that I was trying to fucking heal from. You get what I'm saying? It isn't like the money was easy. No, it was literally struggle on struggle as I'm trying to heal, as I'm trying to go through all these emotions and live life and build where I don't know anybody, where I've never been before, in an environment that I didn't grow up in, learning all of these things and going through everything where it felt like it just wasn't easy. There was every excuse in the book for me to give up. And right now, as I'm speaking to you, I have every excuse in the book to give up. And there's still something in me that just doesn't let me. I've always had this fire, but I had to learn how to channel it healthy, because like the toxic environment I was talking about were the ones that triggered it. But yet I didn't take that as a downfall. I didn't take it as like, yeah, my mind might have been fucked up for a while about maybe I'm not good enough because of the way my environment was growing up and the way they made me feel. But it was everything I learned from. I didn't go through the books and stuff like that. I've always been very street smart. So the wisdom and knowledge that I hold and gain is from literally personal experiences that are so painful that I don't wish on nobody, that I had to learn to alchemize. And I didn't even know I was alchemizing it until, like I told you, I had to actually realize what I had done, because in the physical realm, it wasn't showing nothing. And matter of fact, it was the complete opposite. But all these situations, it has built so much in me, so much strength and all these things. And they say it's your power and all of this, right? And it has come from, for example, I was just working at a machine shop. Before, the man I was working for had health problems and ended up in the hospital, barely surviving, all of these things. Not even knowing what a machine shop really was. And here I was, running a lay, a CNC machine. Prior to this was running mail, Uber, DoorDash. Prior to that, UPS, working with animals, working in restaurants, all of these things. But I am literally the epiphany of the one that can't keep a job. But yet, I literally just did a side job helping folks on a sprint house. I didn't know how to lay cinder block and mix concrete and all of these things. But this degenerate that can't keep a job, that listens to her intuition and looks crazy to everybody else, and sometimes it looks crazy to me, can run a chainsaw, can run a weed whacker. You understand what I'm saying? I can train a dog. I can hold down a restaurant floor. I've worked in a club, gentleman's club on top of that, years ago. There's so much that I have learned, wisdom, knowledge, experience from my own personal journey that society wants to literally, I'm the perfect example of what society doesn't want you to do. Because you're supposed to go to school and do that 30-year for your retirement and all these things. But you see, when I realized that didn't make no sense years ago, when I was a teenager, when I was being asked after being an All-American player, playing in Grand Central Park, what position I wanted to pick, because I was very good at all three that were my main positions, what college I wanted to go to and all this stuff. I could have had it all lined up. But it never made sense to me. But fast forward all these years later, literally 2011 is when I graduated, and we are in 2026. People are now seeing what I saw then. And I've had all these experiences since then because I didn't take the college route and do the thing. What society tells you is the way it's supposed to go, feeding the beast system. And it comes back to that cats have 9 lives, but what about humans? Because I feel like I have lived multiple lives because I did what society told you not to do, but yet it counteracts to how much I've grown mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, even though I was abused in all subjects. And the epiphany of a toxic environment growing up, trying to overcome curses, that I didn't even know were necessarily a part of my life because I was so naive to that subject and area of witchcraft or whatever. But it was all supernaturally exposed to me because of how intense my journey has been and how connected I've been, even though I was mocked. Even though my life still don't make sense in the physical, internally, it's so supernaturally that I can't necessarily explain it, but it comes back to that felt like I've lived multiple lives within this one lifetime. How can I be 33 years old, but it feels like I wasn't even born and raised in Florida anymore? You know, for example, I'm up here in the mountains, right? And this is more, let's just say it, Caucasian, right? The ones that, necessarily look like me. More of my color, even though I'm tanner. And this ain't even that tan for me. Let's just say how I grew up and now to the environment in which I've been in for 9 years. At this point that I'm in the game, let's just say I miss seasoning. What do you mean, Alyssa, you miss seasoning? Culture shock. Kind of, part of this whole entire message. Because I let myself learn and go through so many different obstacles. Even though I could have sat there and been fear-based and let it hold me back. I miss seasoning. I miss the multicultural that I had down in Florida. I miss the multicultural food. The environment. I miss the ones of color. I was like, that white girl, snow bunny, and all these things growing up in high school were so normal to me. You understand? And now I am over here 9 years later, had this crazy experience that I never could have imagined when I got on that one-way plane ticket. Mind you, I had a parent that said, oh, you'll be back in 6 months. You'll miss the water. You know what I mean? Curses already upon my life, right? Just in my own family. Let's not even talk about outside when it comes to Sam, Big Papa Sam, or whatever we want to call him. The surveillance state, you know, just like the let's just say when I was younger in elementary school, I was in this program, you know, those type of folks. Also, all of these things, and it only comes from throwing yourself out there. It only comes from focusing truly on your journey. I would just dive myself into water, hypothetically speaking. Just, you know, imagine it be like, for instance, getting on that one-way plane ticket. I'd just throw myself at it, not knowing if I was going to be successful, fail, whatever. It just felt right. You know what I mean? It just, going inward is what guided me there. And so it felt right. And here I am, like, I could have never imagined any of this. Like COVID, for example, just so you can understand, let alone my own personal stuff that was going on and how much I've healed. The things that my own family called me during COVID. But here we are getting more and more, you know, what? They just had some type of hearing with Dr. F or whatever you want to call him. The one that was front and center. Now things are coming to light more. The journey has been beyond me. And people, 2026, you know, the whole spiritual, new age, whatever, blase, 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 but it's just to the point where people are at least talking, thinking, and opening their minds up. That's the whole prime example of it all. It doesn't really matter what term you want to use or how bad you think you can judge somebody else's path. It still comes back to their own path, just like the prime of this message is my own path is what got me here. I went down the motions of whatever road I was being traveled down, whether it be to get super religious, if you want to use that as an example, whether it be to, you know, be in a same-sex marriage, or, well, we were engaged. You understand? I didn't learn what I've learned from a book, and I can preach. Just that message alone about same-sex relationships from my own experiences, which was the hardest thing, breaking her heart and walking away from her in my life. And I begged mercy for some answers. I've gone so down such a dark journey that has liberated me. But it's only internally. And I can't explain it or show it externally at this moment in my life. But it still comes back to the point of me feeling like I lived multiple lives within this life. How else are you evolving if you don't have that feeling? I don't feel the same as I felt a year ago, 10 years ago, you know, 15 years ago, whatever, a day ago, a week ago, 10 months ago, if you want to put it in a shorter time frame, because I'm constantly trying to evolve. I truly believe everything happens for a reason. So that mindset of holding me back and dwelling in those spaces, I'm constantly trying to break the glass roof over my head that holds me back to blossoming or blooming. Abusive relationship from a guy. Yeah, I'm going to go through the emotions, just for example. Yeah, I might cry it out, scream it out, do whatever it is that I need to do. And then get to the other side. And gain all my knowledge and wisdom from it. Because everything happens for a reason. And with these mindsets and with this mentality and all of these things that I have put into true testimonial work that I didn't even know that I was creating within this whole time. I just had been guided. And then eventually a couple years ago, 2 years ago is when it really started to be revealed to me on the spiritual side and all these words and being able to elaborate better, like an alchemist, an intuition. I literally thought it was just like, I literally thought like I was just straight smart, common smart. I didn't really understand the word intuition. You understand? That's where I'm getting with this. And then it was all just like supernaturally revealed to me like 2 years ago, about now, after my soul dog passed away in my arms because of the witchcraft, and after a double solar lunar eclipse. Like I physically have had to watch my soul dog, pass away out of nowhere in my arms after 13 years. I have physically jumped through hoops just to be there with my grandfather after not seeing him for years, missing him dearly, just to be there in his last night of breathing, where I couldn't even consciously talk to him, holding his hand all night, jumped through hoops just to get through there. And all of these things. Like, I can sit here in my sorrows. I had to literally put down my honey boy with my own hands. Nobody's been there for me to help me cry, give me a shoulder to cry on. No, I had to dig the holes myself. Nobody asked me and my family if I wanted to come to my grandfather's funeral. I couldn't afford it, nor did I want to, because my mission was to be there and hold his hand. And I did, in his last breaths. That's all I needed. But the day he was buried was the day he was actually supposed to visit me up here and see all his other kin folks around here. Because he's not biologically related to me. But see, that's a whole part of the journey, a well itself. People want to sit here and say what they want. Only if you knew the journey on how him and my grandfather raised their own families and done their own things for 50, 60, 80 years, or however long it was. Because the boys all grew up together. And my grandfather's kids and my dad, they all grew up together. But they didn't associate like that. He was already married. Y'all don't believe everything happens for a reason, do you? But I got a testimony to prove it. And then my grandmother passed away. She became a spiritual warfare for me. But in the physical, my grandfather did something so supernatural that she brought into my life after she was abused and had to raise 3 boys on her own and left. Working 3 jobs. Nobody there to help her. But she had her fairy tale at the end. But yet it gave me something that I am forever grateful for. That man, him, my honey boy, and my soul girl, my soul dog, are the screensaver on my phone right now. My world's gone. But yet, I don't even like humanity, because I think humans are like the species of almost pure evil. But I know that they've been manipulated, and I know that there's so much more to it, so I can't hold the grudge against them. But yet, I'm such a humanitarian that has so much love to give and cares so deeply for humans. And I just have always had this leader, free-spirited warrior aspect to me, and always been connected to the Creator that got me to this point of even making this video and this testimony and this destined walk that I have walked. And yet I still have it in me to not give up, even though I have every reason to. Like, I've had to be my cheerleader, my therapist, my everything. You understand? In 2026, that's hard. It's hard, no, alone paying the bills. I can't even pay my bills. I went a year without even paying my car insurance. I didn't even have a phone for, I literally, you understand? It hasn't been easy. But yet, I've gained. There was no way I've come this far and I could just give up. And I feel like that's the only thing that keeps me going. Yeah, I got to figure out how I'm about to feed my cats because their bag's about out of food. Yeah, my car insurance was supposed to be paid a couple days ago. You know how many times I've been in such situations like this, and I've had to be the alchemist, I've had to be the magician because nobody was there to save me? That's how I know the things about Jesus Christ and what he was trying to teach, and the walk that I've walked that understands it, that understands. But not only that, the metaphors behind it when it comes to the cosmos. And it's so symbolic saying a cat has 9 lives. They can see into the spiritual, the 5D and blase blase. But when it comes to humans, I think there's more to it. And I feel like if you feel like you haven't lived multiple lives, you're not living. Like, you're not actually living. I know what it's like to be in survival mode, and I know how hard it is to get the mentality of survival mode out of your mind, or to transmute it, transmit it, and transcend it, and alchemize it, and use it, and turn it for your good in the most painful way. I have every reason to sit here and complain, but yet the things I have to complain about are the same things that make me feel like I've lived multiple lives, because of how much I've grown. And the ones that know me growing up in Florida and, high school and all these things, my early 20s, they know. They know. I was so wild. I was so rebellious because of how much the claustrophobia of the environment that I was supposed to call home was just a house, and the way it made me feel, and how much just, it was a lot. A lot of trauma was built up. People say that spirituality is love and light. It is for some folks, for a fair few that have a heart of gold, that are very fragile, that have a certain type of personality, that don't have warrior spirits, that can't necessarily handle the heavy weight. But when it comes to the dark, when it comes to through the pain, and when it comes through all these trials and tribulations, the revelation is on the other side. The evolution of your own personal journey in life and soul and spirit is on the other side. And that's what keeps bringing me back to a cat has 9 lives. But what about you? For real? Are you living for you? Are you living for what society wants you to do? Are you going to be you? Or are you going to be what society dictates you to be? Constantly evolving and changing and becoming a different version of yourself is literally the objective. But doing so in all the right reasons is what gets you down that testimonial journey, where it becomes so supernatural it don't even matter what anybody else got to say. Much love.